Okay, hey everybody. Here I am. I'm just going to do a very brief walkthrough of how I made my Loopop samples track. Because I'm so pressed for time, I know I'm not going to be able to get the audio edited, so I hope it doesn't matter that or that you'll forgive me for just letting it play through the speakers from the iPads. This is my setup here. I'm kind of standing in my light. So here's what we got. We've got an older iPad here, 6th gen iPad, then a 3rd gen iPad Pro. Okay, and then I've got the Korg, a Korg MIDI controller. I can't quite remember what it's called. It's not important. Nano Studio Key or something like that. So it's mapped. Listen. So it's mapped to a synth. Not a synth. It's mapped to the sample. This one. And it doesn't tell you what it is, but I know what it is because I've had to reload it so many times. It's the stereo sizzle sample. Waldorf M stereo sizzle. I used a lot of those. I guess it ended up only being 2 of them in the end. I like those samples. Alright, so I'm going to try to lock this thing in so I can go through everything. Try to get through everything. Bear with me here. Okay. Let's see. So, first, we're going to start here because this is going to be patterning. And I used, it's not going to sound quite the same, but I used a bunch of the 606 samples here. You can kind of see it. So if I go up here, see all these? These are all the different samples. Just tons of them. They should see tank drum. Oh wait, not tank drum. All these zooms. These are all from the sample packs. So this one is, let's go back. Gotta turn it up, I guess. Oh. Going out to headphones. No, we don't want headphones. Here we go. We'll see how loud that is. So, that is one of the 606 running through some serious distortion. Sounds pretty cool, huh? I love it. Okay, so the reason it's all jacked up, and I did some fiddling around too with the tuning. Let's just have a look at that pattern. So you see coarse tuning, it's up a hair. And I think I did that for the kick drum on every single one of my patterns, and I've got tons of patterns. Oh, and I will show you those patterns. So I tuned the kick drum and I messed with some of the other drums too, here and there. It's just what I do. I know there was an email about how the tuning was a little messed up or something, and I didn't even pay any attention to it because I just do what sounds good to me. Anyway, I would have done that. Alright, so anyhow, so I've got, these are my individual outs that I set up for patterning. So I've got the kick drum. So if I just, I believe the kick drum is coming out of there. Let's solo that. It sounds like crap now, but it doesn't sound like crap when I got it going through. So what's happening is then it's getting to bus. So I've got a Saturn II set up for major distortion on that kick drum because I just love the way that sounds. And that's getting Fab Filter EQ'd because this whole kit is going out of this and into the other iPad, into the big session, into the big, this basically the big mix. So this is just actually ends up being just texture in the other one. That's what you hear at the beginning of the track and at the end and throughout. But anyhow, it's going to this bus, and this bus goes to Scatterbrain, which is like my favorite thing, like one of my favorite things. I use it constantly, and what it is a multi-router, sequential router, okay? And you can do different things to it. And so then you can have multiple instances, and it'll have 4 outputs. This is the first 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'll have different effects to each of these. Here we have Timeless 3, and I just used, this is just the technique that I do. I use, I usually just do presets and then I just tweak them a little and then I don't save them. But really, I'm just going for a texture. Anyway, I'm just going for whatever sounds good. I mean, this is really just what I just make stuff that I like to hear. So, I mean, I like messing with genre and everything, but this is just what I do. And I've got Replicant here. And this is I don't even know how to say this one, but I love it. Rimdiger, something like that. It's some kind of weird reverb thing. It's beautiful. Love it. Love SoundSaw. This is an amazing app. It's so good. This is a huge star in this track. All that distortion, harmonic distortion, that's SoundSaw most of the time. I mean, well, geez, there's Saturn II and there's SoundSaw. But anyhow, so these signals get routed sequentially to these effects. And that's all getting sent to the master here. Another round of Saturn, which I don't even remember what I did with this one. A brutal compressor on that. And then I have Koala Effects, which I didn't even use for the track. Anyway, it goes through the master, and this will then go out the headphone jack and then shoots over to the other iPad where I do all the other stuff. But what else? The other thing I wanted to show y'all here is another gem. I don't know why more people don't use this, because it is glorious. This is called AudioBus Remote. Now what it'll do is it'll set all my controls up. Now I can actually do this with another iPad or even my phone, and I can control everything. I can have these controls on that device, and so these are all my patterns. See, so I'm just and you can just mess around with that forever, and it's quantized a bit. It's a pretty fast quantization too, so it's really neat. Patterning is an amazing program, so cool. So all of these are my patterns too. It shows them, whenever you switch sequences, it keeps up the step, so it doesn't start over every time. And I love that. So I had that going, but it didn't play as big of a role as I would have wanted it to play in the track. But it did play. It was the beginning and the end, and it did. It colored everything. So now I was messing with those patterns in throughout. I tweaked with the distortion and the different bands and stuff to make it sound good with everything else. I don't even know what key I'm in. I think it's C, but I don't even know. It's nice to have a key, but sometimes it isn't really. Sometimes it can be, hindrance to worry about that kind of stuff. And maybe my song reflects that. I don't know. But anyway, so here we are. We are in the big AUM session. Let's just go through it. This particular batch of samples, I really liked it, but I had trouble working with it at first, and I don't know why exactly. I couldn't get it sequenced quite right. I honestly didn't think I was going to be able to do this, make anything. But then I just picked up this Groovewriter app, and it fixed it for me. It was so easy. I mean, I just picked this up, and I was able to do a lot of stuff that I'm wanting to do for a long time. So let's see here. It's got, the great thing about it is, the whole point of me doing this here, I guess, is to show you the samples. So let's go to trigger mode. See how it says sample, sample, sample? Maybe I should turn it back down. Oh, I can't. You got to be able to hear it. What I can do is get rid of that texture. Maybe I should explain that texture first. So the texture is coming from spacecraft. It says... Okay, I don't know, that was a really weird error. Your spacecraft, which I absolutely love. It's a granular thing, synth, I guess, but you use samples. So what we have here, these are Heinbach samples. And I know we weren't supposed to do that, make new synths or new sounds with them, but I just did this to get texture going. So if we take this out and this, that's what you'd hear. And that's because I've slowed it down so much. It's just little snippets of those. I don't even know what samples we're using here, and I forgot. Oh no. Whoops, I wish I wouldn't have done that. Well, that's the beauty of this, is I can just reload. Loopop begin. I'll just reload and you'll be able to see all the different stuff. So I've got multiple outputs from Groovewriter. I've got a couple instances of Scatterbrain. There's my decent sampler. I actually don't have that much. See, now that was the input feedback, because it's supposed to be coming from that other iPad. Alright, so let's go back to the texture. Anyway, I'm not going to show you this. I mean, I guess I should probably show you the sample. Well, let me know. I can always dig it up what it is. I really need to get this done. So this is just doing that for texture, basically. I've got it going through another granulizer thing, which is giving me little packets of sound. And that's what you were hearing. That's what you're hearing there. So if I turn that down, you're not gonna hear anything, which is what we're gonna do in a sec. But that's what's always going on, and I like it that way. And I've got this really cool Velvet Machine, which is grabs a holds. So it's kind of like a freeze reverb sort of. Okay, but we're not going to have that on anymore. Okay, so now let's go through. And the thing about the iPad is it burns up, it goes through processing resources because of what's on the top. usually what's on the surface. That's what I'm finding out. It's less about the audio. For me, it ends up being less about the audio, and it's like the more of these control surfaces that I have open, the more it eats up. So you have to figure out a way to minimize that. You really have to take care of resources. Anyway, so let's go through the samples here. So I've got 16 samples. I think I used every one. And they're all coming from, I don't know why that one's muted. God, they sound so good now. I mean, they're going through my effects. But so if I go to wave, so you can see these are all samples from that pack. See, Portal kick drum, Zaps, Heinbach, Hiss, Plankton. I really like that Zaps. I really love that kick. And then I think these are all more Zaps. I think a lot of these are coming from the Perkins or whatever. This is the Buchla samples here, which I thought were really cool. This is one that I muted, so I didn't use that one. But that's basically it. So I hope that's satisfactory for that. And then I just sequenced on here, and this thing has, and you know, it has the ability to do trig conditions like a lot of gear, and I used that. So then what we're hearing here is, you notice we didn't hear anything before, and when I started triggering stuff, things started happening because all these are buses, and they're going to the two different scatterbrain systems that I've got set up again, and it's the same sort of collection. We've got Replicant, we've got Timeless 3, we got Sound Saw, and we've got another multi-tap delay. And then the second scatterbrain system here, I've got the Sound Saw feeding into that. We've got a beautiful reverb here. We've got a gate sequencer, and I am a huge fan of gates. Huge fan, as you can kind of tell, and probably in that track. This is a free one, and it's really cool. And I use a lot of free apps, actually. This is a free app. This is Rough Rider 3. Oops, I just messed that up. Rearranged stuff. Doesn't matter. Didn't really messed up. This is a compressor. I use it all the time. It's free. Great side chain. I believe here we have a crusher or a distortion. Yeah, crush station. Here we have, what's this, motion effects? Oh yeah, computing. So that's going to make things glitchy. This is going to make things crunchy. Another velvet machine, so it's kind of like a freeze verb. This is a second bus, actually. Put that there. A third bus, which I don't even think I use that. I have it right there, but I don't use it. I could probably delete that channel. Nothing. This is another effects. It's really good. You know, this is just another example. I just use a preset and I just tweak it a little bit until I find what I like, until it works. And remember, the sound gets routed through this network, you know, so it gets shot out, and that's why you're hearing all this psh, psh, all these explosion type things. So here's my bass, which is going to be the Waldorf 6 is what that is. So I got Saturn, and I had to tune it. See, I had to tune it up one for some reason, so it must have been I just ended up doing that. And this one is the Doepfer which was the thing that's playing the entire time. That one I did not have to mess with the tuning, so I basically tuned everything around that. So just ooh, that's a nice sound that I didn't even use. But I love those sounds. Okay, so then I'm gonna keep going with the audio stuff, and then we'll get to the MIDI. Okay, so this is okay. That's this. I love it. So, like I said, that's the stereo sizzle, the Waldorf arm. Sorry, the Waldorf M stereo sizzle. This is the input from the other iPad, and so what I did with that is I brought this in, and then I used a splitter, and I split it into different frequencies, and then I routed those. So the low frequencies ends up running a compressor on the Doepfer sound, and these higher ones get sent through the, actually I ended up not sending that one through, and this one just a little bit. The mid frequencies go through the scatterbrain networks. And let's see, so what we have here is then we have a submix. Actually, we have the M, which usually that started off as my master channel, and then I have koala effects here, which you see me fiddle with all through. It's a really cool little thing, very cheap, but very good. Multi effect. The XY pad is the coolest, and it'll affect everything that runs through there. D ends up being my master channel. That's this, and then I've got Looperator, which is another very interesting effects, sequential effects module or app. And here is a trick that I'd use, and it really works well. So anytime you see an app that has MIDI by it, it's an effect, then if you load the MIDI, that means you can control the parameters with the MIDI. Like I can change the programs here, I can change the presets with this MIDI keyboard here. So if you watch the top here, see, these are all going to be, basically I've got it set up, these are all like breakdowns and build-ups and stuff, but then I have one clean one that I had to make, so I can always go back to that, and that's a trick. It's just one way to do it. Okay, then I think that's pretty much it. So the sequencing, I have a few patterns here on Groovewriter. I've only got, I'm on 5 is where I start, and then I go down to 1, down to 0. I can work within those, and those are all just different sequences that I've made up. And I started out with the kick drum on there, but I deleted all the kick drum patterns because I really like to play with the kick drum, and so I found a way to do that by using this MIDI drums program, which is just so resource friendly. It doesn't use a lot of resources. It's a little bit of a pain, but it's so quick. I can tap these, and you see me doing it in the video, and that's what I'm doing. So I've got 16 different drum patterns here, and I can just fiddle with this forever and do this. And so this actually can route MIDI to the GR16 and can drive that sample from there, which I was just thrilled with that. I couldn't believe it. It just seems like you can pretty much do everything with these devices. So that's what So the kick drum is being operated by MIDI drums. That's the only thing that's going to be that's being run by this program. All my hi-hats and everything are either coming from GR16 or they're coming from the other iPad. And so I have multiple different, so you might see these little, I use this app all the time, this perforator app. It's another gate sequencer. I use it all the time. It's very cheap. I mean, I just feel like you can make anything with, if you have a gate sequencer app and an audio editor and some simple effects, you can make anything into dance music. Okay. By the way, this program is really cool. This is KB1. It's a little expensive, but it's worth it. I mean, a little expensive. It's $10. It's not expensive. Okay, so what am I going to show you next here? Okay, so chord jam. This was a big pain in my butt, and this was the reason why I had to use the MIDI keyboard, because having this thing open, it's so hard to read it when it's small. I mean, you can't read it, and you can't do much with it, and it uses up tons of resources. I don't know if you can see that, but it's 70% now. But if I take that away, it drops substantially. But anyway, so I had to use the MIDI keyboard for that. Keyboard goes into chord jam. Play the chord jam without bringing it up. Saved me tons of resources. And aside from that, it's just a matter of arranging it, you know, coming up with a way to have an intro, having some different breaks and stuff like that, and that's just practice and messing around, but I hope that that's sufficient for a walkthrough. Okay, so all right, well, that's gonna do it. Peace.